All right. So, hey everyone, it's T here. On tonight's podcast, I have Rebecca Dahl with me. She's an accountability advisor. She's a podcaster. She's an entrepreneur, and I mean so much more. So, I wanted to introduce my new friend to everyone, Rebecca. Rebecca, tell everybody a little bit about you.
Thank you so much for having me on your show tonight. I'm so excited to chat with you. So I feel honored. Thank you. Yeah, so I'm all those things you just described. I'm currently working with Conquer as an accountability advisor. I come from a background of executive leadership. I was a chief operating officer in my previous roles and broke away from that to do my own business consulting and then start a podcast and host it called Conversation Mill. That's all about small business entrepreneurs and local economies because I have such a passion for local economies and our local communities. So that's just a little bit about kind of my professional life.
I love it. I love it. So what got you into like doing the podcast and, highlighting those businesses?
Years ago, a friend of mine, my best friend, I call her my soul sister, came to me and said, we should do a podcast together. And she was living in Wisconsin and I was living in Florida at that time. Now I'm in Greenville, South Carolina, but it just never worked out. Like the timing never worked. We just couldn't get our stuff together. And so years later, she came and visited me here in Greenville. We spent a weekend hiking. We talked about all the things we haven't done that we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And podcasting was one of those things. And by the time she left, I said, I'm doing it. I'm buying the equipment as soon as you leave. I'm just going to start doing it. And in between buying the equipment and launching it, I kind of came up with the concept with the help of my partner, Allison. She said, you really love small business. You love entrepreneurs. You know a lot about it. And you get excited about talking about local community and local leadership and how our local economies work. So I think you should niche it around that. And it's been, yeah, I've really fallen in love with it. And I get so energized after talking to these business owners or these community leaders. Every conversation is different and I learn something or I'm inspired by something every time.
Oh, that's for sure. I always feel like things always happen for a reason. And like the same thing, like, you have this in you and you're like, when is the right time? Like, I'm just going to do it. And the same thing that happened with this podcast. I'm on Melody's Facebook group, Business Misfits, and just hearing other women and their stories and their intros. And I'm like, you know what? Like, I want to do a podcast. Like, this is inspiring to me. And then I'm like, Melody, we should do a podcast. And she's like, go for it. So there it just happened. And
Yeah.
it's just wild. Like, even like this weekend, I went away to Wolf Lodge with my friend and her two daughters. And, she's like, what do you do? And I'm like, well, I work from home. She's like, what do you do from home? I'm like, well, I talk to people on my computer. And then my girlfriend's like, don't downsize it. And I'm like, no, like, she just turned 7. It was her birthday weekend. And I'm like, I never knew at Salia's age this could be a possibility for a job.
Mhm.
So how do you talk to that? How do you say that to a 7-year-old? Like, the things are just changing so quickly. And when I was younger, not that I'm that old, but when I was younger,
Yeah, how much younger could you have been?
no, but still, like it never, like that was never a dream job, or it never was a possibility. And not that it's a job, but even like for me to do this, like I
Yeah.
never even knew this was a possibility, that I'd be able to be on a computer talking to someone in North Carolina,
Mhm.
and and I can see you, like that wasn't even a possibility. Like, and so it's just so wild to me the way that, you know, the whole world is changing right now, and, how we can share our voice with everyone and inspire people and highlight them. And that's kind of like what I wanted with this podcast. So,
Mm. Yeah, you're right. I didn't imagine this for myself, that's for sure. And now that it's been going, I'm on my third season, a couple episodes in, and we were
wow.
at the farm. Yeah, we were at the farmers market this weekend, and we just moved back here from Maui. And so we're walking around the farmer's market, and one of the vendors who's been a guest on the podcast was like, and came running up to me and was like, I'm so glad you're back. But also I have we got to do another episode. I have all this information I want to download to you. And I'm so excited. And that just brought me so much joy. I mean, it's always nice to be seen and valued for what you do. But then just that they were like, this is a platform where I can share this information that I'm learning. And if nothing else comes of the podcast, I've made a difference in some people's lives and given them a platform for their voice. And that's really what matters to me.
Exactly. And that's what I was telling my girlfriend, she's like, why are you doing the podcast? I'm like, I just want to be able, because I feel, and you know me, I'm about abundance, right? Yeah. It's all about sharing. It's about spreading the word, because we're only here for so long. Yes. And what is our goal? What is our mission? And if maybe this podcast might be my mission to share that, who knows, Well, I'm not going to deny the steps and the doors that are going to open for me, because I don't know what that next journey will be. And so I love that. Oh, that must have been a great feeling. They're coming to run at you. And I feel like we had this conversation earlier when, we were talking to some pros, and they're kind of getting what we're saying and they're putting it into motion. And it's just such a wild feeling.
Yes.
It's
yes.
It
is. It's like I said, if that's the only thing that this accomplishes is one or two people are touched or learn something or inspired to open their own small business or inspired to participate in local government, or a subject that comes up a lot is food and farming in our communities and in healthcare. And if it motivates somebody to do something more healthy or change a lifestyle habit, then that's successful, because the idea kind of for the podcast too was birthed out of the pandemic, and thinking how do I as one person change big things that happen in the world? I can't, the bottom line is I can't, but everything is grassroots, and you can talk to one person who's going to talk to another and another. And so that was sort of part of the inspiration too, was feeling that oh my gosh, how can I help everybody or change everything? Well, you can't, but you can do what you can do. Exactly. And this is what I could do.
Well, cheers to that, my friend.
Cheers.
Yeah, I definitely feel like the pandemic really sparked a lot of people's creativity and really kind of gave them what is this all about? What can I do? It really sparked people. For me, I literally finished radiation days before the pandemic.
Wow.
And so for me, I couldn't even have that vision of oh my God, I was just trying to figure out, can I even have bananas in my house? We're wiping down bananas, the mail's sitting out for a couple of days because my immune system was so weak. But then after that, it was just I started to the T.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's about that time that I start to the T. And at the time, I knew I wanted to start my own business, but I didn't know what it was, because I have a lot of love for the small business service industry, because I am an electrician by trade. And so I'm okay, what can I do? I'm not an electrician. I didn't finish my hours, but I still want to be in the community, and how can I do that? And so To the T was born in 2020 also. And so, but now it's starting to bloom, and I'm super excited because I'm having people like you on my podcast that I just want to highlight people, and share their visions and like-minded people, and it's all about abundance. So that's so awesome. 2020 for you too. I feel like we're aligned in so many ways.
Totally. And I can't imagine what it was like going into the pandemic with a pre-existing health condition, and just the fear of the unknown. Kudos to you for, just carrying on. It had to be very mentally and emotionally strained. For those of us that were healthy, it was fear of now what? When the lockdown orders went in place and certain things happened, it was how long, just the fear from a just human standpoint, but then to have added things on top of it, I can't imagine. So kudos to you for hanging in there and for being creative and starting something new at such a difficult time.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I just felt for the women after me, I was very lucky to have only 8 sessions of chemo, and I had a friend of mine, different friends of mine, come with me to every treatment. And knowing how the whole pandemic went down, I hurts my heart to know that a lot of these women had to do it alone. So I did have that opportunity to share my journey with friends of mine. But like I said, it like when this all shut down, it's just such a hard couple words to hear, and then the journey is so rough. I can't even explain it, but I'm very lucky, and I do know a lot of women. My doctor keeps sending me new women to kind of talk to and also be inspired. But if anything, they inspired me, and I kind of feel like that's where this whole podcast kind of came about, because my doctor kept sending me women for a surgery that I had. It's called the deep flap, where they take a part of your stomach and create a new breast, and it's no silicone. And a lot of women didn't know if you can have 2 different types of breasts and still look like a woman. And so, honestly, I'm going to talk to Dr. Birch, because I feel like she kind of inspired this.
Yeah.
But I love to talk to people, and I feel like that kind of what brought this journey along. And I'm like, I love to talk to people, and why not share this on a larger platform versus just at conferences and just on little Zooms that we have here and there. This is more of a one more intimate thing. And so I appreciate you being here tonight. So that's awesome. So I want to talk a little bit about your podcast, though. So I didn't know 3 seasons. Holy moly.
Yeah, I do about 17 to 18 episodes per season right now, because it's what my capacity is. I also supplement every episode with a piece on Substack as well. So you can sign up to be a member on Substack, conversationmill.substack.com, and get extra content from every episode, and or videos or photo essays or essays written by me in conjunction with that week's episode. So kind of doing double duty there. And I've had a few people who have done bonus episodes with me that are more business or finance focused. So yeah, I really try to offer a lot of value through the episode, but then also through all that supplemental material.
Awesome. So what's your favorite podcast so far?
Oh man, that's how do you, I guess it would be.
I know. I don't know. What was one that kind of sticks out your head?
Oh man. One that sticks out, it's called Kiss of Aloha, and later episodes of season 2, so this past season, and it features a conversation with a surfer, Josh Bogle, who is based on Maui, but he is a quad amputee.
Wow.
So due to a medical emergency, he lost both legs below the knee, and then one hand, and then most of the fingers on another hand. It was after that and through recovery that he started surfing and learned to surf. And so he's the first quad surfer, and now he surfs around the world in these adaptive surf competitions. But he has this incredible story of being in this place between life and death, and having to make a conscious choice of, am I going to die and go towards the darkness, or am I going to accept this breath of life and come back to the living? And he describes this kiss of aloha, and what it was like coming out of that, I think 13 or 14 day coma. So it's quite an impressive story. And he's just I get chills thinking about it now. He's just such an incredible guy, and going to his house was so comfortable, and
Oh,
he made me feel
I love
so
that.
welcome. Yeah, so that's one that sticks out. He's such a great leader in the community, and now he gives back in so many ways. So that one really sticks out to me.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I could I can relate, when life comes at you, it's like sink or swim,
Yeah.
like what is it?
Yeah. Oh, that's kind of, that comes up on so many of the episodes, whether someone's talking about their business and how I got to interview one of the co-presidents of a company called Musgrave Pencil, and it's
Okay.
one of four pencil companies left in the United States. They're over, I think now they're 110 years old,
Mhm.
family run this entire time.
Okay.
But at one point in their history, their company was owned by the bank
Mhm.
because they had done so poorly that the bank took over the company until they could get back on track. And so to talk with this man who was in his 80s, that was a kid running around there when his grandfather ran it and his dad worked there, and to hear him talk about the times that they didn't know if they'd be able to keep the company and him
Mhm.
having to make sacrifices. And so again, it's that sink or swim. What are you going to do when it gets, life or death? When it gets so hard, are you just going to give up, or are you going to do what you need to do and push through it? And it's stories like that, whether it's Musgrave Pencil or Josh, that I just come out of there with this renewed sense for life and reflect and go, okay, so my like running out of gas is not that big of a deal. Like if you
Exactly.
if I'm putting this in perspective, you know,
Exactly.
these
My
stories.
life's not that bad.
Exactly.
And no pun intended to Josh, but it is the reality. Like either
Yeah.
you sink or you swim, and and sometimes you just can't coast. Coast is not going to do it. And so I love that, and that's what I feel like. Even this weekend, I bumped into this woman that just started talking to me, and oh my gosh, we just had such a beautiful conversation. We ended up hugging, and like just telling me stories, and I feel like we had this conversation. Once those stories go with the elderly,
Mm,
we still have their recordings and
yeah.
their voices. So that part of it won't be lost. But I love talking to people, and she definitely did it for me this weekend. So
I love that.
how funny things go sometimes.
Yeah.
And especially with Josh, like sometimes I feel like, oh man. But then when I hear other people's stories, I'm like, I only had cancer once.
Hmm.
Some of these people have cancer multiple times. So I know what I went through was bad, but it could have been worse. And that's with anything in life. Life throws curveballs at you, and you just gotta have to figure it out. But I love that. And oh my gosh, like you're giving me chills talking about it.
Yeah, I've been very blessed to just connect with the right people, and I'm sure you know this, being a podcast yourself, you kind of go out on a limb inviting guests because you never know, right? Like even if like, oh, this company has a good history, or this person, started from nothing and grew their company, you don't know how they're going to be once they get in front of a microphone or a
Yeah.
camera, and how they're going to be able to tell their story. But I, I can't think of anybody that I went, oh, that was really hard to get through. Everyone just comes in, and so whatever that is, whether I'm putting out the whatever it may be, it's working. Like
It's
I'm
the
getting the right people.
It's the energy. Like even this weekend, like I'm just kind of like we had a wand and we had to touch TVs and they're lighting up, and she just comes to me. It wasn't like I call. We have certain energy that we just attract people to
Mhm.
us. And that's one thing I love about Concord. Like
Yes.
the people are amazing, and we always gravitate to each other somehow because we're all like-minded, and I just feel like it's an awesome group. And so like when these people come into your life, you just kind of want to sit down and have a conversation with them like we're doing today.
Exactly. Oh, like, yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. So what other episodes do you have coming up?
Oh man, I have some really fun ones coming up. There is here in Greenville a local jean maker, and he is a one-man band, and he makes custom jeans.
Wow.
Um, and he gets like rolls of vintage denim and different things like that. But so I'm gonna go to his shop and we're gonna record and do video while he fits me for a custom pair of jeans.
What?
Yeah, and then
I love
talk about why he got started, how he got started. So that one I'm really looking forward to. I'm going up to Asheville in a couple weeks to interview the owners of a bookstore that's been there for 50 years. Yeah, I mean,
I love
I
it.
have some really fun guests coming up, and I can't wait to hear their stories and and the challenges that they face in their business, because I definitely, two things. I want my listeners to be able to relate to what's going on in business if they're coming from a business background or they're an entrepreneur themselves, to
Mhm.
relate, to get it pointers, tips, whatever it may be. But then
Yeah.
also for people to remember, like, this is these people are not just in Greenville or Asheville or wherever Rebecca's interviewing them. They're in
Mhm.
my local community too.
Yeah.
So when you hear their struggles of getting started or marketing or whatever, it should inspire you to go support your local small business owners.
Exactly.
And what we do, right? We're talking to home service pros. Like, try calling the home service pro that started a small business in your community versus maybe one of these massive companies that's down the road. Like, support your small business owners, because they're going to hire in your community, they're going to spend money in your community, they're going to support your kids' little league team, like all those things. um,
Exactly.
that's what small business owners do. They want to do that.
Exactly. And we used to sponsor, well, this year we sponsored the car show,
Mhm.
and it goes to Middlesex Chamber of Commerce, and it goes to help the youth in the community. And there was other things that we sponsored, but I always knew it was to give back to the community. And I always felt like that was huge to me. Um, Food has always been near and dear to our heart. Giving back to the Connecticut Food Bank, and I was able to take a tour of their new facility, which was amazing. Um, Giving back to the local food pantry, because if you don't have food in your belly, I don't feel like you can think and you can grow, because you're so focused on just trying to eat. So food has always been near and dear to my heart. But that was one of the things when I did work with the Power Washing Kings. I was always about giving back in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love spreading that message of that's the heart and soul of local economies, is working as a community. And again, when you support small business owners or local artists or musicians or whatever it may be, we're all in this community together, and
Exactly.
like the experience at the farmers market, that's one of my communities now, is the people at that farmers market, because they know that I know Red Clay Soap, and Red Clay Soap talks about me to them. And so
Mm-hmm.
those are some of my people now. So if they need something, and what's been really cool is I did an interview on Friday, and she owns a gluten-free restaurant.
Oh, love that.
So when I left, she was like, order whatever you want for dinner for you and your partner.
Mm-hmm.
This is how it's supposed to work. You gave me a platform to market my business for free. Here's a free dinner. When I went to the farmers market, they were like, oh, hey, we can't wait to do the podcast with you again. Here's free soap. And again, that's how it works. Like, when you are doing something for somebody, they do something back, and like, I'll
Exactly.
take it. Like,
Exactly.
I just saved $50 this weekend, or made $50 by
Exactly.
being a voice for people. And that makes me so happy,
I
so
love that.
you get what you need when you do the right thing with good intentions. And it's
Exactly.
not always monetary, but it might be something that you need or that you want.
Exactly. And that's how it was done back in the day anyway. It was trade. There was no money.
Exactly.
It was trade.
Exactly. Now I just gotta find like a doctor or massage therapist to like give me a free.
You're like, I need a physical. I gotta.
Yeah. It's time for my annual physical. Would you like to come on and talk about your practice? Great.
Love it. You know what it is though? They want to show their appreciation. I feel like, that I feel like that's what it is at the end of the day. They appreciate you and they want to give back in some way, shape, or form. Even like when the guys would go out to a house and they do a job and they want to repay them with like maybe a soda or some cookies or a beer or whatever. And I'm like, just take it. Like, even though I know you might not like it, that's how they're showing their appreciation. And just take it. If you don't eat it, just throw it out later, but don't be rude.
Yeah.
And I feel like everybody wants to give back, and that's how they're showing that they appreciate you. So that's awesome. I love that.
I do too. I love it. And those little things, those little community things do add up and make a big difference. And most importantly, we're talking and we're engaging and we don't agree on everything and we might not be aligned on every issue, me and the guests I have on the show, but now we're a community and they're like, oh, or if you do a roundtable on this subject, invite me. I want to come to your house and do a roundtable podcast on that. Like, they are asking me to connect them with other guests that I've had previously. And so we're coming from these different walks of life and belief systems and backgrounds, and we're creating community, which actually unifies us and starts to heal some of these divides that we see across the nation.
Oh,
It can't always happen on a massive scale, but it can happen right here in Greenville. It can happen when I was out in Maui interviewing guests and connecting with people that are radically different from me, but that I found so much in common with. So that's another byproduct of podcasting or even coaching or training like we do. And gosh, that warms my heart. And I need that. I need that because I'm an introvert. So I'm not a natural go out there and want to be my friend and meet friends person.
like
So yeah, like you. Yeah. So making friends this way it's my golden ticket.
I love it. I love it. And I read The Secret eons ago, but one thing that stuck with me in The Secret was what you put out is what you get back.
Yeah.
And that's what you're doing when you go to these farmers market or you're just reaching out to other people. You're putting out to meet them, but what you're putting out is so massive, and that's awesome. I just got a book this year from the AMP. It was The Go Giver. Oh my God. Like, that's next level stuff. If you have a chance to read that book, read it definitely. But it's, always be a giver. And that's where like my abundance mentality comes from, because it's like, to hoard it, what good does that do me? And for me to share, what can that blossom into? And so that book, that was an awesome book that I got from the AMP this year, down in Nashville. So, and they're going to have the Huge this year, I think in a couple of weeks. So if you don't have your ticket yet, and this is not a plug, but it was, the Huge was awesome for me last year. It was a huge game changer and I appreciated it. So we're about to wrap up.
Yeah.
At the end of this, I like for people to share a piece of knowledge, a great nugget. I mean, you got all those books in the background. You got to have something, something to leave this episode with, and share with other people.
Man, so many things. Something actually that I was writing about today was a quote from the poet Mary Oliver, and I actually have one of the things on my bookshelf back there is a quote from her. What do you want to do with your one wild and precious life? Which I think a lot of people know, but Mary Oliver was what we call like the great paying attention poet. And one of her lines was, our good and honest work is to pay attention and to tell about it. And she was speaking about nature. But that for me is a little bit of a life mantra. Like, when we're paying attention, then we can talk about it, then we can help, then we can do something, then we can better ourselves. And I was writing about it for an essay for Substack, actually, for a couple weeks from now, but just, I paid attention to somebody that maybe I normally wouldn't connect with,
Mm-hmm.
Their product then helped me. And so by paying attention to all these people and all these things, it led me to a healing for myself.
Yeah.
And it was a physical, it just happened to be a physical. Pay attention, whatever that means for you. Be a little bit more aware, take more time to observe and sit quietly, versus being at the forefront or talking or forming an opinion. Yeah, pay attention.
Awesome. I love that. I love that.
Thank
Well,
you.
cheers, Rebecca.
Cheers. Thank you for having me. This was such a joy. You are a great host. I appreciate you so much.
No, thank you for being on tonight. I appreciate it. It was a great conversation. And do a plug before we leave.
Awesome. Well, you can find me at conversationmill.com, or you can listen to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. And it's Conversation Mill, Mill. Thank you so much, T. Again, this was such a joy.
Thank you, everybody. To the T, 7 o'clock on Sundays. Bye.
Bye.